know it's almost September, and that means it's time for me to make my TBR for the Autumn Equinox Magical Readathon. I filmed this video a week ago, and when I went to edit the footage, something was wrong. Like, the audio and the video didn't sync up right when it uploaded. So I'm filming it again, and I have to say, I felt like it was a intimidating TBR, but realistic. While I'm looking at my TBR stack right now, I'm like, what was I thinking? I'm going to tell you because I've set it in stone. I have a plan. I'm kind of determined to finish these books in September because I have huge plans for October. And so I just kind of want to get these read, but I'm also like, what was I thinking putting all these books on there? We'll see what actually happens, but I am excited for a lot of these books. So if you don't know what the Magical Readathon is, it is a readathon hosted by G over at Book Roast. And the way it works, it was originally based off of Harry Potter, and she moved away from that with all the ickiness around J.K. Rowling. So she's created this almost D&D inspired fantasy school where you build a character and they're going to school and you are studying to become whatever fantasy career you choose from the career list. And in the spring, in April, you take classes and you read one book for each class. And those are the classes that you need in order to progress in your career studies. And then in the fall, so September, you have to sit for your exams. And the exams, sometimes you need a Q or an O or a D, and those stand for something, and I always forget what they mean, but it could mean instead of just studying inscription, you have to do inscription, but you have to get a Q level and an O level to pass that class. And different careers have different difficulties. I took one that's on the higher level because I always want lots of books to read for the readathon. I don't want to read 3 books for the whole month because you get the whole month. So I always want a little bit of a challenging one, and we definitely have a challenge this year, but I'm really excited for these books, and I'm just going to jump in, tell you the classes that I'm taking them for, what the prompt is, and show you what I'm going to be reading. So the first book is a sun on the cover. This is for alchemy. Alchemy, I need an O, a Q, and a D, so I need to read 3 books to fulfill 3 different prompts in order to pass the class. So for alchemy, I'm going to be reading Insomnia by Stephen King. Technically, I have started this book, but I always feel like if there's over 300 pages left, I can still count it as a full read because 300 pages is definitely a full book. So I'm halfway through this. This is a book about an old man who is finding it harder and harder to sleep at night. He keeps falling asleep later and later and waking up earlier and earlier until he's basically not sleeping at all. And weird things start to happen. I don't know if this is technically a sun. There is something in the book that this could be, but it looks like a sunset. I think it's supposed to look like a sunset, so I'm using it for a sun. I'm really enjoying this book, but I have put it down for quite a few months and I want to get back to it, so I'm planning on finishing this one out in September. Then, still staying within alchemy, I need to read a book where the cover is in my birth flower colors. So I was born in April, so Daisy has white and yellow, and daisies are actually one of my favorite flowers, probably my favorite flower. So I was thinking about white and yellow, and then I saw a book and I thought of a book and I was like, okay, it's kind of stretching it a lot, but I do really want to read it, and I've been having to put it off for months because of other reads, so I'm just gonna sneak it in and stretch it a little bit. But that book is The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. I had waited to read this because I read most of the other ones pretty soon after they were released. This is the Secret Project book that I hadn't read because I heard that you probably want to read part of the Stormlight Archive to read this one. So I've done that. I've read all the Stormlight Archive that's out right now. So I want to go back and reread this, or read this for the first time. So I'm going to do that. And I thought this kind of looks like a daisy center and some petals. And there's a lot of yellow. So I'm going to count it even though it's not yellow and white. I think it works. And I'm excited to read this book. Next, for D for alchemy, the prompt was to read a book by an auto-buy author. I don't have a lot of auto-buy authors, but there are some authors that I think are kind of becoming auto-buy authors. One of those is Matt Wesolowski. When I was reading the third book in this series called Beast, I was like, I'll wait to buy the last two in the series, just make sure I like number 3. About 10 pages in, I was like, who am I kidding? I love this series. And I went and bought the final 2. And so I was like, I think that kind of means that he's becoming an auto-buy author for me. I don't really buy books unless I'm truly interested in them. But this series is such a great series. I love it so much. This series is about a podcaster called Scott King who sort of finds these mysteries that have this almost like supernatural feel to them, and he goes and he interviews people, and the whole book is like written like a podcast with like interviews and things like that, and his like introductions and him kind of inputting as the podcaster into these conversations. They read super quickly. They're not that long. They are a great horror, thriller, supernatural kind of read that's not super scary. It's more just eerie and a little creepy. They kind of remind me of like a creepypasta almost, where it's like, or an urban legend where it's like kind of creepy. We know things maybe aren't real, but there is some evidence in these stories that make it seem like maybe there's something more supernatural going on. So I really enjoy it, and I want to close out the series this year. So this is the 5th book, and the next one I read will be the final book. Then we're moving on to our next class, which is Inscription, and I need to read 2 books for 2 prompts for this class. So for the O, so I need a book where the number of letters in the title is a prime number. So I'm choosing to read The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Bacigalupi. I have pre-picked this for another challenge I'm doing this year, and I'm a little nervous that I'm not going to like it because I read a short story by him in a short story collection. I read 2 pages and said ew out loud and put it down because it felt really gross and misogynistic, and I did not like it, and I did not care enough to read further to see if it got better. I was just immediately grossed out by it and was like, I don't want to read a story like this. So I'm hoping that this will not go that way. This is a post-apocalyptic story, I think. I don't know much about it. It's just something that's always intrigued me. The back of it, every time I like came across it, I would read the back and go, that sounds interesting. And he has been an author I've wanted to try. So here's to hoping I like this. If not, oh well. Then I will be reading a secret book, which is for another project, is for Taming the Shelves. The challenge was to read a book where the title was written vertically on the spine. So instead of having to turn a book horizontally to read the title, you could read it. It would be like written across like this, or maybe like each letter would be written down like that. But basically you can read it properly with it standing up without having to turn it on its side. I have a secret book for that prompt. It will be in another video, a video that I've been working on for a long time. So this needs to get read immediately. Then I have 2 versions of the same book because I've been having issues with carpal tunnel in my hands and reading mass market paperbacks that I have to hold open. My hands get very tired very quickly. So I have Written in My Own Heart's Blood by Diana Gabaldon. I bought this for like a couple dollars or $1 and was planning to read this copy, but with my hands the way they are, I've needed to get another copy. So I got this from the library, the big hardback, so I can open it up and read it like that, and it can rest on a pillow or on my lap, and I can read it much easier that way. This one is for Artificery. This was going to be a prompt where I needed to look up on social media and read the 9th book I saw, but I don't love doing social media scrolls right now because I have so many goals that I'm trying to finish, and not a lot of the books that I'm going to see on social media right now are books I have on my shelves, and I'm trying to knock out books that I own already. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to try to go get a bunch of new releases or anything from the library. So I want to focus on the books I own. So we're focusing on these. And so I changed the prompt. I'm going to buy a scroll using the in-game currency to buy a scroll to change this to a shape-shifting prompt, which is for a multiple point of view book. These definitely have multiple points of view. So I'm going to be reading Written in My Own Heart's Blood by Dana Gabaldon. I did a reread of Echoing the Bone, which is the 7th book in this series. I reread that in April, and now I'm going to read this for the first time. This is the first new Outlander book I've read since 2014 or 2013. It's been a long time, 11 years. I'm excited to get back to this story and see what's going to happen in the next couple books. Then, for the Spells and Incantations class, I need to read 2 books. This is my final class. So, for the O, I needed to roll a d6, and whatever number I got, I had to multiply that by 100, and that would tell me how many pages my book had to have. So, if I roll a 5, it has to be between 500 and 599. The dice were very kind to me, and I rolled a 1. And at first I panicked because I was like, do I have anything on my shelves that's less than 200 pages? But I did. I actually had more than I thought. But I decided to go for the most fun one that's book adjacent. And that is The Mystery Agency, The Museum Heist. This is an interactive puzzle book. So it's definitely there is story within it. There's pages of story. But there's an actual murder that you're trying to solve as you go through. And so you're filling in these documents at the beginning, things about the suspects and the case itself. There's a theft report. I don't know anything about the actual mystery. I'll find out when I open it, but there's a floor plan. And so I'm going to have a blast just solving this as a little break from all the reading I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little reading and puzzling. I'm obsessed with puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, escape rooms, puzzle books. I love them. I'm so excited to try this one. I hope it's good, because if it is, I might look to see if they have any more in this series that I could get. I'm very excited for it. And then the final book that I'm going to try and read in September. Originally, I was going to change this prompt because it was a book that was released this year. And I was like, I haven't bought any new releases. Again, I'm trying not to use the library too much because I'm trying to read the books on my shelves. And then the answer arrived in the mail on the day that I was recording this originally. Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. This is Secret Project number 5. This just came to me when I had recorded this last week, and I was like, perfect, I just got it and I can read it. I think this is going to be a great summary book because I believe this has to do with an island. There is a short story called The Sixth of Dusk that this book kind of pertains to that story in some way. So I'm going to reread Sixth of Dusk if I can get my hands on it, and then I'll read this. So I'm very excited to read this. I think it's going to be a really fun setting. I really loved the short story, The Sixth of Dusk. I thought it was really fun, and I wanted to know more about that world and what's happening in it. So I'm so excited to read this. So let me tell you how many pages all of that adds up to. So if I read all of these books in September, it will be 3,874 pages. If I divide that by the number of days, it's going to be 130 pages per day. So that might be a challenge, but I'm already seeking out audiobooks when I can, and I'm going to be switching jobs. I actually just worked my last day today for my old job, and my new job, I'm going to be working like 15 hours per week for right now, maybe adding some more in as time goes on. So I'm hoping that I can basically funnel all that other time into reading when I can, because there will just be a lot more time that I'll have available to sit and read. Also, it's going to be nannying for a baby, so she'll be napping maybe like 2 hours per day while I'm there. So I'm hoping that I can also like read while the baby is napping. This is all hopeful things that are going to happen, not necessarily things that are going to happen. So we'll see. I am hopeful that this will be a very productive reading month for me, and that I can get all these things done. It would be making so much progress on so many of my goals for the year and projects that I'm working on and things like that. So I'm just really excited about it. I love magical readathon time. I had such a fun time putting together this TBR, watching G's video, thinking about the classes and what books I want to read for them. I have a blast with it every year. So if you haven't checked her out before, go check out her channel. I really, really like it. I'll try to remember to link it in the description. It's a very fun readathon. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books, please tell me what you thought about them. If you have any plans for September reads, please tell me what you're planning to read, and if you think you're going to read all the books that you want to read in September. I'm not sure about it, but I am going to give it my all. That's for sure. I will see you in the next video. Bye.